Welcome to our channel, El Cheapo Sun Seekers. Follow us as we share our experiences in seeking economical ways of finding our place in the sun. Welcome to Los Ramblases. We're going to show you our apartment that we've been staying at for the past 3 months. Hope you enjoy it.
This is a walking tour of the neighborhood. Well, just come with us and we'll show you around. So, why are we here? Why are we in Ramblases?
The reason we are in Ramblases is I was shopping around looking for a less expensive accommodation. The places I'd been looking at on Airbnb were getting pretty expensive. And I just happened to connect with somebody online who had this apartment for rent. It's in a working class neighborhood, so it was, probably 75% of the cost of a lot of the other places we were looking at. I wouldn't say it was super cheap, but it was a little more reasonable. So that's how we end up in Ramblases.
Yeah, and the other factor too is that we wanted to stay for a few months. So, staying for a few months reduces the price of your rental.
Yeah, and Puerto Vallarta is becoming a pretty expensive destination if you're going to stay. Well, even if you're going to stay for a week, I think it's pretty expensive.
Okay, so how do we describe our neighborhood?
Well, it's a working class neighborhood. The people that live in this neighborhood, for the most part, they're the workers. Like, I've taken the bus to school where there's people that are getting ready to go and be vendors on the beach. There's people that work in the tiendas around here, the little stores. Yeah, it's definitely working class, but there is some higher end homes around us too. So it's kind of a mixed bag as far as the neighborhood goes. Like the houses across the street from our apartment building are definitely nicer houses. And then down the road from us, there's an apartment building that's got like a pool, and it caters to tourists. So it's probably a unique neighborhood in that respect. I don't know. Maybe Mexico's like that all over the place. I don't know.
Yeah, and a lot of young families around here too, and lots of kids.
Definitely lots of kids. Well, there's a park like right across the street from our apartment.
Yeah, and at nighttime, it's always full of kids.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see. So, how do we describe the building that we're staying at?
Okay, well, the apartment is a fairly new building. I think it's about maybe 9 years old. Um, it's 4 stories tall. Is that right? Yeah, because the bottom
Yep.
the bottom level is a parking garage on one half, and then 3 apartments on the other half. In the courtyard in the center, there's a whole bunch of palm trees. So that's kind of interesting. And it's a walk up, so there's no elevator. There's 3 apartments on either side of each of those 4 floors, except for on the bottom. And I would say possibly about maybe a third of the tenants might be Canadian, and then the balance are national Mexicans. And because they're condos, there's a variety of finishes in each apartment. Like, they're all 2 bedrooms and they're pretty small. They're not very big, but some of them are more basic and other ones are more, you know, fancy, I guess, where people have put like marble countertops, all built-in cabinetry and things like that. So there's a wide variety in that building. And then the neighborhood itself, on the street that the apartment's on, there's houses that seem to be pretty nice houses in that neighborhood on the actual street that the apartment is on. But you can go a half a block away and there's a dirt road and they're still building. Houses are in different stages of being built. So, there is just that it's an up and coming neighborhood. It's not totally developed. And where more of the neighborhoods, I think, in Puerto Vallarta are a lot more developed than ours. But hey, we haven't been everywhere, so we can't really speak to all the neighborhoods. But it just feels like that we're just in a lesser developed neighborhood. And the other thing, this neighborhood doesn't cater to gringos or to tourists, and so there's not a coffee shop on every corner. There's no coffee shops really within blocks of here. Like, we walked pretty far yesterday before we came across a coffee shop, and we were in a totally other neighborhood by that point. There are a couple of restaurants in the neighborhood. There's a really amazing seafood place that's just around the corner, and the chef from that seafood place was from Cafe de Artiste, I think it's called, which is one of the nicest restaurants in Puerto Vallarta. And he was a chef there for many, many years, and he opened up his own place around the corner. So it's kind of a hidden gem where we can get like amazing seafood. And the other restaurant that's in the neighborhood is called Fabrica de Hot Cake, and it's a breakfast place. So there's a breakfast place that's open till I think 2 o'clock, and then there's a seafood restaurant. But other than that,
But that one's a good 15-minute walk, so
to the breakfast place,
Yeah.
yeah. And then down the road there is a Polo Feliz, so there's a place to get rotisserie chicken, and then of course on the corner, like even in the corner where we live, there is a taco place, but we haven't really been embracing the street food taco culture, just because we really don't eat meat. So because of that, it's not really place for us to go and eat. But there are taco places all over the place. Like there's taco places. There's probably 3 taco places within a block of where we live. So if you like tacos and Mexican food, you can eat everywhere around here. But it's not the coffee shops that we're used to in some of the more touristy areas of Puerto Vallarta.
well, let's not forget one of our favorites.
Definitely. Well, our favorite, I think, is Los Muertos Brewery. There's a location down in the Romantic Zone we stumbled upon last year. And then we found that there's one that's probably a 20-minute, 25-minute
Yeah.
walk from our apartment. So it's a Los Muertos Brewery. It's a wood-fired pizza place, craft brewery. And they have an amazing special that's super affordable where you get a slice of pizza, a salad or fries, and they make the best French fries in Puerto Vallarta, in my opinion, and a pint of craft beer or a soft drink. And I just love the house salad. It's a lettuce salad, but they put artichoke hearts in it and black olives for just a regular house salad. I just think about it, it makes me hungry.
So let's talk about safety. Do we feel safe here?
I definitely feel safe here. We've walked around at night, and there's no bars really in the neighborhood. Like there might be a bar down the road from here, but it's not the place that has a lot of tourists walking around, and I don't think anybody's out there scoping out tourists looking to take advantage of anybody. Like this is a neighborhood that's got families living in it, and
Yep.
they're looking out for each other all the time. I feel really safe, and I feel that people are aware of us, but they're not looking at us that, ooh, there's those gringos, but rather, oh, there's some new people in the neighborhood, you know? People have been so friendly too. Like I've met numerous women when I've gone to wait to take the bus that have come over and start talking to me. I have friends now that are people that I met taking the bus. The women in a couple of the different tiendas have been really chatting with me a lot, and yeah, I definitely feel safe. How about you?
Yeah, totally. The things that are not safe around here are walking on the roads,
Yeah.
uh, and in general too. For the whole PV area, the other thing to watch out for is, in my particular case, is not getting swept away by the waves. So those are the real big things we got to worry about.
Yeah.
Well, another thing I'll mention is that we were using water straight out of the tap to make our coffee for the first month or so until we discovered how the water actually gets to our tap. So there is a water reservoir at the bottom, on the main floor, where the water is plumbed into this reservoir, and then from there the water is pumped into 2 holding tanks. But the reservoir is basically wide open. Not wide open, but you can.
It's got a hatch you can open and
Yeah,
see
you
right
just
into
open
it.
the hatch and there's the water. There's the
So
water.
the water is treated with chlorine for sure, because you can smell the chlorine in the water. And there
Very-
are people that will
very-
drink it directly from the tap, but we don't advise that.
Yeah.
And we were advised by our neighbors not even to use it for cooking and coffee and stuff. So we do buy our water in the 5-gallon jugs, and that's the water that we've been using for drinking and for cooking and that. So while we're thinking about things around our apartment, we don't actually, or we didn't have any laundry facilities in our apartment, and there's no community laundry within the apartment building itself. So we dropped our laundry off at a launderia. And what a launderia is, it's basically a laundry service. It's not like a laundromat. Launderia, you drop your clothes off, and they wash them, they dry them, they fold them, and you pick them up ready to put back in your drawers. So we probably spent on average $15 to $20 a week Canadian to pay to have our laundry done. When we get back home in Canada, we're going to put together a video that goes through what it actually costs us to live in Mexico for 5 months, and we'll do a bit of a breakdown on our accommodation costs, our food costs, our travel costs, and just see how we did as far as keeping it to a decent budget. So come back and see that video.
So now, how about getting around? So we are farther away from town. So we're a good half an hour walk from, say, the beach. Um, so in general, if we want to go somewhere, we take the bus, right?
Yeah, we take the bus. Where I go to school is in the downtown area, which is called the Romantic Zone. And it's probably, on a good day, it's a 20-minute bus ride. And we can walk places. It's not like there's, how many stores around us? Like within a block radius of our apartment building, there's probably 6 different markets, and a couple of them are fruit and vegetable markets. One is smaller, one is bigger, which is where we tend to go mostly. There's what they call a supermercado that has a in-store butcher, and it's a small grocery store, but it's, it's good for getting those things that you really need.
And then there's an OXXO and a kiosco.
Which are like convenience stores.
Yeah.
And they have everything. But if you need to buy like bigger groceries, we did walk to the Le Commerce, which is probably equivalent to a Whole Foods. Like it's a higher end, pretty expensive grocery store, but it's where you can get a lot of imported goods. And I think it probably took us a half an hour to walk there.
Yeah, half hour walk.
So it's totally doable to walk around. Our next door neighbors, they have a motorbike and they bike everywhere, and it would definitely be nice to have transportation like that, because they can go into the outskirts, which are places that we don't typically go because we're taking the bus or we're taking an Uber.
And when it comes to taking Ubers, so it seems like some of the drivers are probably want to avoid coming to the neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure.
As you see from the video, it's some of the roads, especially if you don't know where you're going, you can end up taking the wrong turn and
being on a really rough dirt road.
Yeah.
And even the cobbled streets. One driver that took me to school one morning, he was saying he avoids the Los Ramblases fair because of the cobbled roads, and it's really hard on their vehicle because there's hills and cobbled roads. So it's not their favorite place to come. Which reminds me, getting into a taxi here, you have to ask the fare before you get in a taxi, because one day we were downtown wanting to come home, and we asked a taxi driver how much it was going to be to bring us home, and he said 150 pesos, whereas a couple of weeks earlier I got into a taxi by myself downtown as well, and it was 80 pesos. So the drivers will take advantage of you if they think they can. Where just a couple of days ago, I took a taxi home from school, and I went to get in the cab, and I asked him how much, and he said like 120 pesos, and I'm like, really? It's mucho. And I said, will you take 100? And he said, okay. So he drove me home for 100, but I was willing to talk to him in Spanish at the place before I got in, and I negotiated 100 pesos. But I wouldn't do that if for every trip. It was just because like I knew that he wouldn't really charge me that. Because a lot of the taxi drivers live in our neighborhood as well. So that's the other thing. So it's kind of an interesting thing. If you can speak a bit of Spanish, it's going to go a lot further than just speaking straight English. You're not going to get any deals if you don't speak any Spanish.
So how about pros and cons of living in this neighborhood?
Okay. Well, for me, a pro would definitely be living with integrating in the Mexican community, which is something that I really wanted to do. Because we live here and a lot of people in our neighborhood don't speak English, it's really encouraged me to be practicing the Spanish that I'm learning at school. And I find that the people are being very generous. They'll help me with my pronunciation of things, or when I go into the food market, she's been telling me the names of things when I don't know the names of, like, celery, for example. Not that I remember what it is, but she did. She has told me the names of some of the foods that I don't know in Spanish. People have been very warm in our neighborhood. Like, I find they're friendly and warm. Um, you know, buenos dias or buenas tardes goes a long way in getting positive reception from people. We are within half of a block of getting a bus, so that's great because we don't have to go very far to catch a bus. Um, I like where we live because looking out the bedroom window, it's all trees, and the view from here, even though we're far from the beach, we're on the fourth floor of our building, and you look out and you can see the ocean and you can see the mountains, and you kind of know that you're in this tropical place. It's not like in the heart of a city where it's just you see buildings all around you, so that's kind of a pro. The mercados being around us is definitely a pro. Like that, there's fresh fruit and vegetables and a butcher and all kinds of stuff, like, all around us. We can buy whatever we need, like.
And the fact that we're in the outskirts, it's cheaper. It's just cheaper out here.
Yeah, for
Food,
sure.
food is cheaper, and of course our rental is cheaper.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the cons.
Well, I guess if there are some cons. One of the cons being that the neighborhood is not fully developed. There's still, a lot of streets that are dirt and they're not finished, and the sidewalks are uneven, things like that. Mind you, that's pretty standard around Puerto Vallarta. Um, then there's also the issue of noise, and you've got roosters and dogs, and music can be all night long, but that can be found in lots of areas of Mexico and lots of areas of Puerto Vallarta. And then probably the biggest con for me anyways is smoke. There's people light a lot of fires, they do a lot of burning, and I don't know if it's because we were on the upper floor of an apartment building, but it felt like there were a lot of nights where we had to close our windows throughout the evening because the smoke was coming in and it was burning our nostrils. So that's probably my biggest issue with living in that neighborhood, was the smoke and the smells. So living in Ramblases was a fantastic experience. We absolutely have no regrets. There's wonderful people, and actually I found there's wonderful people all over Mexico. The people are the gem of Mexico, if nothing else. The climate doesn't hurt, the sunshine, the ocean, the good food, all of those things. Um, yeah, we just had a great time.
And talk about the weather a bit. The weather is basically the highs of 28 to 30 degrees on a daily basis, with overnight lows of maybe 18 degrees.
Yeah, perfect.
There was maybe a week or so, or two maybe, that the temperature dropped a little bit more than that, but that's it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, sunshiny days, mountains and trees and ocean. What more could you want?